I never thought a shower could feel so heavy, so loaded with a quiet dread that gnawed at my chest. We had been together for 3 years, and just a week ago, I'd said yes to his proposal with a heart full of hope. My fiancé, Michael, was the man I trusted with everything. My dreams, my fears, my future, or so I thought. That evening, everything changed. It was late. The soft hum of the city outside our apartment barely reached the bedroom where Michael sat, scrolling casually through his phone. I was tired from work, aching from the weight of an invisible knot in my gut. I had tried to ignore it all day, the little signs that something was off. The way his smile seemed forced, the way his eyes darted away when I asked about his day. But tonight, the feeling was stronger, almost suffocating. When I told him I was going to take a shower, I was only half honest with myself. I wasn't just seeking warmth or cleanliness. I was buying time. I left my phone on the edge of the sink, casually pressing the record button, hoping to catch whatever truth was lurking beneath his polite facade. The bathroom filled with steam as the hot water began to cascade down my back, but my mind was elsewhere. I leaned against the cool tiles, gripping the edge of the tub as I listened. And then I heard it, his voice, soft but unmistakably Michael's, coming from the bedroom. He was on the phone, but it wasn't a quick hello or a work call. It was a conversation dripping with betrayal. His words cut sharper than any blade. I don't think she suspects a thing. She's so wrapped up in planning the wedding. It's perfect timing. My breath caught. My skin prickled. I gripped the edge harder, trying not to let the tears spill. I wanted to rush out to confront him, but I stayed still, desperate to hear more. I don't care about her feelings anymore. She's naive and she's blind to everything. It's easier this way. The words echoed in the steamy room, making the space feel colder than the tile beneath my feet. My whole world crumbled in those moments. The man I loved, the one I had dreamed of spending my life with, was living a lie. There was no accident, no misunderstanding. He was deliberately deceiving me, weaving a web of secrets just beneath my unsuspecting eyes. I felt the sting of tears, but also a fierce, burning resolve. This wasn't the end of my story. When I finally stepped out of the shower, water dripping down my arms, I picked up my phone. The recording was still running, a silent witness to everything I needed to know. Michael looked up, surprised to see me so quiet, so composed. But I was no longer the woman who would be shattered by secrets. I was someone ready to reclaim her life. I didn't say a word about the recording, not yet. Because sometimes, the most powerful truth is the one you keep to yourself until the moment is right. The days after that night blurred into a haze of sleeplessness and quiet torment. I kept replaying the recording over and over, trying to absorb every word, every inflection in Michael's voice. It was like peeling back layers of a carefully constructed illusion, one I had unknowingly lived inside for years. The man I thought I knew was a stranger who spoke with cold calculation about my trust, my love, my future. I felt betrayed, yes, but more than that, I felt foolish. How had I missed the signs, the little lies, the excuses, the moments when he seemed distant, but I brushed it off. My heart ached, but deep inside, a small spark of clarity was growing. I wasn't going to be his victim. I spent the next few days watching him carefully, seeing him for who he really was behind the mask. The smile he gave me in public now looked rehearsed. The way he reached for my hand felt hollow, and yet he had no idea I was awake to the truth. When I finally confronted him, I chose my words with care. I didn't want a dramatic scene or a messy fight. I wanted him to see that I wasn't broken, that I was strong. "Michael," I said quietly one evening, our eyes locking in the dim light of the living room. "I know everything." He blinked, caught off guard. His usual confidence faltered. I heard the conversation. I continued, watching his face pale. I know about the lies, the other life you've been leading. For a moment, he tried to deny it, but I held up my phone, playing the recording just loud enough for him to hear. His face went from denial to shame to anger. I never meant to hurt you. He stammered, "It wasn't like you think." But the damage was done. The man I loved was gone, replaced by someone I barely recognized. Yet, as painful as it was, I didn't want to break him. I didn't want revenge fueled by bitterness or rage. I wanted justice, sweet, undeniable justice that would heal me and expose him without destroying what was left of my soul. So I took a deep breath and made a decision. I would reclaim my life, my dignity, and my happiness. And when the time was right, the truth would be known not through anger, but through the quiet strength I was about to build. Because sometimes unveiling the mask is the first step toward becoming free. I never wanted my story to be one of bitterness or endless suffering. When the truth about Michael's betrayal came out, it felt like the end of everything I had hoped for. But it was also the beginning of something new, something powerful. The days after I confronted him were quiet but charged with an unspoken tension. Michael's apologies came and went, empty words that couldn't fill the void he left behind. I refused to let his lies define me. Instead, I chose to rise. I started small. I threw myself into my work, accepting new projects and pushing myself harder than ever. I reconnected with old friends I'd neglected, those who reminded me of who I was before the mask of fiancé and future wife had silenced me. But my plan wasn't just about healing. It was about truth, exposure, and reclaiming my power. I shared the recording with a handful of trusted friends and family, those who needed to know the real Michael, not the charming facade he presented to the world. Their support was a balm for my wounded heart. Word spread quietly, but deliberately. The man who had once held my heart was now exposed, not through drama or cruelty, but through the undeniable truth of his own words. And then the sweetest part of my revenge unfolded. I watched as Michael's carefully built life began to unravel. Invitations stopped coming, calls went unanswered. People who once admired him started to distance themselves. But I never gossiped, never spread rumors. I let the recording and my quiet strength do the talking. Meanwhile, I blossomed. I traveled to places I'd only dreamed of, pursued passions I'd shelved, and most importantly, rediscovered the woman I was before the betrayal. A woman who was whole, vibrant, and free. The best revenge, I realized, was not to break him, but to break free, to be happy without him, to be stronger without him, to live fully and fiercely, proof that no betrayal could chain me down. One evening, as I stood on a balcony overlooking the city lights, I smiled softly to myself. The pain was still there, faint but distant. But so was the promise of a new beginning. A life where I was the hero of my own story, and betrayal was just a chapter I had survived. The shower that night had been my turning point. What I found in the recording was the truth I needed to see. But what I chose to do with that truth, that was my true victory.